Hey everyone. Please support what I do to help keep Greyhawk alive by subscribing to the channel. Also, please consider becoming a channel member to get early access to videos, exclusive live chats, quarterly adventure modules, and more. Thanks, and enjoy the show. So I realize it's been a couple of months since I last did a read-through of the World of Greyhawk fantasy setting, so that's just what we're going to do today on Greyhawk Grognard. So we left off with the Sea of Medegia, which is one of my favorite countries in Greyhawk. It featured really prominently in the Gygax articles in Dragon, where they detail, the events of what's going on in 578 and 579 with the armies moving around and everything. And one of the major things that was going on was the war, the burgeoning war between the Great Kingdom and the Iron League. So the forces of Medegia were detailed, and they talked about battles and stuff like that. And uh, that's really where I got my love of the country. Um, his equitable nemesis, Spideza, the holy censor of Medegia. I mean, that's just I love that title. That is just great, and it really gives you a feel for just what a pompous um, Papa J this guy is. He's nominally a vassal of the Great Kingdom of the Overking. He was in, he Medegia had pretty much declared independence, and then the Great King, the Overking, smacked him back into line. So now he's trying to uh, suck up to the Overking. Um, it's got a population of 250,000. There are some Sylvan elves in the Grandwood Forest. What we're talking about is down here in the corner on the map behind me here. This is the area. Um, Capital is the capital in the book says Rel Astra with a population of 39,800. That was actually errated later on. The capital is actually Monterey. Rel Astra is an independent town that's in the vicinity. So this is a mistake in the book, which was later corrected. Um, the Holy Censor was originally the chief cleric of the Great Kingdom. Clerical holdings were granted from Rel Astra to Pontilver, south of the Mikar. Or is it Pontilver? That's the actual. No, I think it's Monterey. Um, between the Mikar and Flanme rivers, including a portion of the yada yada yada. The fief became so strong as to be virtually independent when the Malachite throne went into decline. The Holy Censor still remains one of the chief advisors of the Overking, however, um, and reigns oppressively over peasant masses with full approval from Roxas. Um, the, um, so it's basically you've got a an evil clerical kingdom, which is semi-independent at this point, and I've always liked the idea that you had Medegia on the one side and Almor on the other, um, uh, as kind of counterbalances to the Great King. One was evil, one was good. Uh, the Living Greyhawk Gazetteer later kind of destroyed that idea, which is another reason I don't like it. Um, and yeah, exactly. I just like things because they don't match my own preconceptions. So yeah, uh, go figure. So we have this beautiful image of this land of corrupt clerics, who are ruling over oppressed masses of the peasantry and stuff. I mean, it's a wonderful image that you get. And there's a lot, like I say, there's a lot more detail in those Dragon magazine articles about the armies and battles and so forth. Let's just say they don't do so well in 578, 579. Um, Next up, we have North Province. His Radiant Grace Grenell, the Herzog of North Province. This one is up here. Got Boink. Another vassal of the Great King. This one has a population of 750,000. Um, the Herzog of North Province is a cousin of the Overking, as evil as his kin, but certainly not as demented. The boundaries it goes through. Um, a punitive force of mercenaries was defeated in the hills above Belport recently. It is now reported that the Herzog is seeking imperial funding of a huge army to recapture the southern portion of the Bone March. Um, Yeah. So we don't get a lot of detail here, and there are a few little suggestive things here and there about the use of mercenaries and so forth. Again, this is one of those places that was more detailed in those Dragon magazine articles. And later on in the setting, once the Greyhawk Wars are over and the Great Kingdom basically implodes, North Province becomes its own country essentially and takes on the role of the Great Kingdom, even though it's only about a third of the territory. It's detailed in great detail in I use the evil. No, sorry, in Ivid the Undying, which was that unpublished yet published as a PDF source book for the for that was released by TSR back in the day, but never actually printed. So you can find it knocking around online. It's very useful for a whole lot of things. And there's like a fan uh, not a fan edit, but a fan um, layout of it, where it kind of mirrors the look and feel of those other books. North Province has a lot of it's a very important. It's kind of lays out, it's kind of removed from the major action, which is the war between the Great Kingdom and the Iron League. So it's kind of aloof from the strife down there, and that's how it's able to kind of survive the Greyhawk Wars more or less intact. There's a lot of enemy. It's still got enemies. There's all those humanoids in the Bone March. There are the Sul barbarians that keep coming down. They're rivals of the Sea Baron. There's a lot of things going on like that. But on the whole, it doesn't really get ravaged in the Greyhawk Wars like other parts of the Great Kingdom. It's kind of an out of the way. I don't want to say backwater because that would imply things that it's not. But it's kind of insulated from the events that are going on around it, and ultimately it just kind of tumbles into the fact that it is now an independent kingdom. Um, Next up, we have one of the more important nations of the Floness, which is Nyrond, the kingdom of Nyrond. His august supremacy, King Archbold III of Nyrond, Duke of Flinthill, Altmeister of all Erde, etc., etc. The capital is Relmord, and it's got a population of more than 1 million in the whole country. It's vast. This is what we're talking about here. This is Nyrond in here, um, and it's one of the major good aligned nations of the finesse. You've got Furiondi and Valuna in the west, and you've got Nyrond and Almor in the east, and those are kind of the major good nations, and of course Kaoland in the southwest. Um, but that's pretty much the big ones. They were in a war with the Great Kingdom not too long ago. They support the Iron League greatly. They're very active in the Greyhawk Wars that come along, with much to their detriment. They're not. Nyrond is not obliterated like some of the other players were, but it was definitely hurt badly. Its treasury was sucked dry. Millions of, thousands and thousands of its men were killed. So it's not doing well at all. There's a big rivalry between Nyrond and the Pale, which we'll get to. Um, which is more a feature not of the fact that they're one that the Pale is evil and Nyrond is good, because the Pale is more neutral um, than evil in that sense. I mean, in a very real sense. Well, we'll get to the Pale in a second. But there is a great rivalry between them, and sometimes they do skirmish in that patch of woods right there. Um, and in the book, it goes through a bit of um, a bit of the history, which is more extensive than you see in most of the other entries in the book. The strength of Nyrond and the hostility of its rulers and nobles have been the major protection for the civilized nations of the Floness against the depredations of the Great Kingdom and its mad emperors. Um, Nyrond also went through a phase of near imperialism, making both the county of Ernst and the theocracy of Pale tributary states for a time. Then Dunstan the First, called the Crafty, um, uh, uh, called the Great Council of Relmord, and gave them their freedom in return for support and so forth. Um, uh, Almor was treated somewhat similarly, and aid was granted to the Iron League in the form of loans and treaties, which guaranteed the survival. Yeah, yeah. So you get this impression of Nyrond is a very important, very wealthy land that has enough surplus that it's able to send aid and such to the Iron League, which is very under siege by the Great Kingdom. And you get this impression it's this big bulwark that is kind of keeping the Great Kingdom kind of paddled up. And not able to push out to the west, which is, from the perspective of the rest of the planets, is a really good thing. Um, Next up, we have Onnwal, which is a member of the Iron League. And again, Onnwal is here, right there. It's on that little tip of the peninsula you see that juts into the Sea of Girnat, which is this. Um, his noble authority, uh, Eward Destron, the Zek of Onwal. It's got a population of 40,000, so it's one of those very small kingdoms. The capital is the town of Scant, which is right at the tip of that peninsula. Um, Onwal, it's a member of the Iron League, which is a very important thing. Onwal was originally a lesser fief of the Herzog of South Province, uh, to be granted as he saw fit to his faithful followers. And then the Great Kingdom was basically so oppressive and awful that they broke away when the Iron League was founded about 130 years before the book is written, in 447. Um, the Here we go. Onwal and Iron Gate supplied the sea power, while the other members furnished troops for land actions. So it's it is a vital part of the Sea Prince of the Iron League, because if you look at the geography there, there is this ginormous coastline, and everything down here is very exposed too. So its position, not only with a large fleet, but also its position on this peninsula, because the Great Kingdom, which is here, can't get to the southernmost parts of the Iron League without going around it. And that way, Onwal has this strategic position, and Scant has a strategic position, where it's able to interdict fleets of the Great Kingdom and South Province in particular. So that forces them to go overland if they want to attack the Iron League. Um, and again, this is another country that we saw a lot of detail added to in those magazine articles, because it was detailing the war between the Iron League and South Province and the Great Kingdom in general. Um, Iron Gate was besieged by Iridian forces for several months, but in the Battle of a Thousand Banners, the siege was lifted. Um, when a ruse panicked the Northerners, and great numbers of them were subsequently slain by a combined host of men and Grey Elves of the League. While never invaded, Onwal is subject to periodic sea raids from the Herzog squadrons, and the major port of Scant is exceptionally well fortified because of this fact. Um, and you get this idea. It's a small, uh, wants to be unimportant uh, country where it's, a lot of fishermen, a lot of sea traders, that sort of thing, and they would have been content to just be that way if the Overking and his minions had not just been so awful and oppressive. And you really get this idea that, the Great Kingdom brought this on itself. By its just generally evil and oppressive policies, it brought on the rebellion that ultimately ends up destroying it. So it's kind of a neat thing. So anyway, I'm gonna hang it up there. Hope you enjoyed this further delving into the book. We're still gonna go strong. You won't see many. I don't do these as often as I used to, because they get lower views, but I like doing them, and I know some people out there like hearing them. So I'm gonna keep going. Just not as often as before. So anyway, hope you like this one. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I will talk to you later.
Thanks for watching today's video. Please remember to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Below you'll find links to my Patreon, which helps make these videos possible. You'll also find the web store where you can buy my books, and my blog where you'll find all sorts of free downloads and other articles. Thanks, and have a great day.